Good evening, everyone. I decided to go ahead and do a breakdown of the latest trailer for episode 4 of Yamato 3199. Episode 3 just came out as of the recording of this video. Those 4 episodes were released yesterday, and I just finished watching them, so I'm actually really excited now again for episode 4. It's going to be great. So I just thought I'd do a quick breakdown of the trailer here for episode 4, which is due to come out October 10th of this year. So as you can see, this is a very short trailer. It's only about 30 seconds long. So I will play it through in its entirety first, and then I will go back and kind of break down a little bit of what I'm seeing.
バースの大地は必ず守り抜く。
おじさま、三者がさらわれたの2週間前ですよ。
繰り返す必要があったのです。イスカンダルのかけら、底の知れぬ力だな。我々はとんでもなく危険な船に乗っているのかもしれない。最後に一番美しい君を見たかった。さようなら、売国土の皆さん。おじさま、波動砲を撃ってください。
Okay, so, and yeah, that's basically the end of it. Whoops, hang on. I hate it when I do that. There we go. So, the first thing that jumps out at me comes up right away.
Yes.
This right here. So, the subtitles are horrible. It's not the greatest translation in the world. It's just a quick auto-translate, so it's not totally exact, but I can't speak a lick of Japanese. So, I have to have subtitles of some kind when I'm watching these, so I can kind of understand what's going on. I can get a rough idea just from the visuals, but when they're talking, I still like to sometimes know what it is that's being said. So first of all, what I'm seeing here is this has to be Admiral Ram. So when this series first came out, when 2199 was released in 2012, it was a remake of the original series from 1970. So in the original Yamato, Season 3, which was released in 1980, you had the Roller Federation. We've already seen the Roller Federation in the previous episodes of 3199, and of the current series, and Captain / Admiral Ram is technically a Bolar. He is from the planet Birth, so that's actually what that translation right there is supposed to be. It's supposed to be planet Birth, and it's a protectorate of Bolars, basically, and he gets into this huge fight with the Gondolans, and he is barely able to escape with his flagship, the Legendra, and that's where he comes across the Yamato, is in the process of that escape, and Yamato gets caught then in the middle of the fight between the Legendra and the Gondolans, and it just causes this whole issue. So that's the Legendra right there. That red ship there looks like the Legendra to me. It could be the Desera, but just from this angle, I don't think it is. These do not look like Gamelan ships to me. They're not shaped like Gamelan ships. They're shaped like Bolars. So these gotta be Bolar ships. We've seen them before in the previous episodes. They were starting to kind of incursion onto Earth's territory a little bit before the Desarian came in. So this has got to be the Bolar, the Birth Defense Fleet. Now, in the original series, the Yamato got into the middle of the fight between Captain Ram, who we just saw, and Captain Dragoon, who was the Gamelan commander under Admiral Smeardum. We haven't seen Smeardum yet, but we have seen Dragoon. So, spoiler alert, in the last of the most recently released episodes, we see Dragoon fighting Yamato until Captain Flacken appears with the dimensional submarine and puts a stop to it, and basically stands up and pulls rank on Dragoon and tells him to knock it off, or else. So, it's hard to say. Dragoon did not appear happy about it, so it's entirely possible that he might go rogue. And that's how it'll happen, just as it did in the original series. We have this fight, and Yamato gets in the middle of it, because, let's face it, she's a trouble magnet. But it's hard to say. So, I'm definitely convinced that this is the Birth Defense Fleet, for sure. and Yamato is going to confront them at some point. But whether that is in the form of providing some assistance or they actually engage in a fight, I don't know yet. But just based upon this, I would think probably that we're going to have a friendly confrontation between Captain Ram and the Yamato. Okay, so here's Sasha, and again, this is what I'm talking about with the subtitles. They're coming on quick with these subtitles before we really see who's talking, and I'm just having to kind of take a guess. But I know this is Sasha. Of course, you got the new analyzer right behind her, so obviously she's on board Yamato now. At the end of the last episode, we see Yamato being escorted to Gammon, where Sasha is with Dessler. I'm still not entirely certain how that happened. Desarium released Sasha, but I don't really fully understand why they did. I personally feel like there's a trap coming here, but it's hard to say. Anyway, she obviously was part of the reason why Yamato was spared by Dragoon in the first place, because she probably tugged on Dessler's sleeve, so to speak, and stood up for her uncle. But it's hard to say. So obviously she's explaining to her uncle here. I can get the gist of it from the subtitles, even though the subtitles are not very great. They still get the gist of it across. And what I'm seeing here is that she's trying to explain to her uncle why she's gotten so much bigger. I mean, the last time that Kone saw her, she was this little thing, and now she's this little... Okay, so now this part here, we have Toto's sister, right? We have Toto's sister, who's the traitor, right? And clearly she's sulking about something. And then the Desarium guy who's with her is trying to explain something about how something was necessary. He's saying it was necessary to repeat it. I don't know what it was, but presumably it was something that wasn't good for them. And he's just saying, well, we had to do it. One other thing about Desarium here that I'm noticing in this series. So in the original series, there was a gap between Season 2 and Season 3 where we had a lot of this that happened, right? And this remake kind of covers out a little bit when it did in 2205 when Gamalas and Iskandar were lost. But it doesn't really go into the detail that this is going into. So there was this enemy, if I can remember the name right, the Dark Nebula Empire in the original series that was from a different dimension, and the Yamato eventually defeated it, of course. But that was what happened in the original. However, we're seeing some of those same elements here in this series with Desarium. So I think Desarium is supposed to be the Dark Nebula Empire. I think. That's what I'm reading into it at this point, just based upon what I remember from the original series and what I've seen so far from 2205 and now the current series, 3199. So it's hard to say for certain, but that's what I'm seeing. If that's the case, it would make sense. Even the title of this current series, 3199, actually makes a lot of sense, because there was a line or two in the original series where the characters are confronted at one point by the Nebula Empire, who claim that it's a different year or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it was, but there was an important aspect there. So that would make sense. The dimensional aspect definitely fits, for sure, because they were from a different dimension, and the Yamato eventually fixed that, but that's what I remember. So, and there's that lady again. So Desarium's always talking about Mother, and I can't tell sometimes if Mother is supposed to be this one, or if she's just the computer, or if she's both. I mean, Desarium's already proven that they're basically computers in human-like bodies, so it's really hard to say, though. So now we still have Yamato being escorted by Desera to Gammon. That's the plan here, Gammon, right? We saw that at the end of 2205, that Dessler was able to free this planet, liberate this planet from the Bolars, and then that's almost certainly the Gammon Defense Fleet, there, the Gammalas fleet, welcoming them back. 我々 that's Dessler who's talking right now about the fragments of Iskandar. So we already know that Yamato has a fragment of Iskandar within her, in her core, which explains a lot of the increased energy that she has. And so he's warning, Dessler is warning Kodai about that power, about how much more powerful Yamato is. We don't really know what she's capable of at this point, and Kodai's agreeing with him. He's saying, we think we may be on an uncovered danger ship. I don't know if that's exactly what he's saying, but that does seem to be the gist of what he's saying. Again, these subtitles don't do a great job at giving me word for word per se, but they do a good job of telling me what the gist is, what the point is. So that Yamato is overpowered is undeniable. She's always had, of course, plot armor. 2202, the second season, was notorious for giving her plot armor that was ridiculous. I don't want to bash the second season, but that was one of my beefs with it. But now, we've already seen so far in this season that she is insanely overpowered. She's got these new wave motion warheads that just a single round is enough to take out a ship. She doesn't even need the wave motion gun at this point, really. But she's just got everything. It's like literally like, what can we put on her that is universe ending and then just pile it all over the place on her, is basically what's happened. I mean, she is insanely overpowered. And Dessler seems like he's trying to warn Kodai about that, about the fact that she is this much more powerful ship than she's ever been. And whether that's because he's trying to warn him about the fact that power exists, or the fact that having that kind of power makes her a target, as if she wasn't already a massive target. And then there's that freaking creepy little Desirium child there again, and I can't decide if she's a genuine child or if she's a bloody spy. And then there's, oh my god, is that Tsubasa? I can't even keep track anymore. I don't think it's Tsubasa, because he would only be 5, I think, at this point, or 6, maybe. Wait, no, he was born, I would say, well, let's see, Makoto was pregnant with Tsubasa at the end of the 2199 voyage, so, I mean, it could be him, but he doesn't look to me like he's 6, but I could be wrong. That could be him, I think that might be. And there's Yuki. Okay, and he's, what's his name, Alfred's, or whatever his name is, that prince guy. He's with Yuki. He's obviously has some feelings for her. In the original version, we see this as well, where he gets kind of attached to her, and she, in classic Stockholm Syndrome, kind of gets a little bit of attached to him. There's Nambu. So Nambu is obviously looking at something. He's really carefully inspecting something. He doesn't exactly know what it is. Then we have this guy, Ahsoka's captain. What's his name? Kimono? I can't recall for certain. But we have him in the very end of the last episode. We see him seemingly surrender himself to Desirium or something like that. It's kind of hard to tell, but I can't tell if he's doing it deliberately or if he's actually on their side or what at this point. It's very confusing with him, but I feel like if anyone's going to have some kind of master plan within the Resistance to take Desirium down from the inside, it's going to be this guy. Okay, of course, Yamato has to be firing her wave motion gun because that's something she always does. Okay. And then this is the most interesting part here to me, because we have the flower here, the flower creepy thing, dimensional thing that Desirium has, and it's wrapped itself around Yamato. So we can see that. I'm going to go back just a little bit so I can kind of get a better read on what it's doing. Okay. So it's wrapped itself around specifically her aft section, which makes sense because it's designed to basically squash wave motion energy. Well, somewhat, maybe. Actually, well, her engine's still going, actually. I can see her engine's still going. So I can see the light of it down here in the right hand corner. I can see it's still going. So I can see a couple things already with this. So we've got these ripples over here, so there's a dimensional boundary here somewhere, so that makes sense. Because that's what this flower is. It's a dimensional boundary weapon. It goes down, and as we saw in 2205, it gobbles up Gamelon submarines. And speaking of Gamelon submarines, we have one right next to Yamato right here. We have the UX-01. This looks like the UX-01 to me. Right here, right next to her, right? So obviously, there's some kind of partnership going on here between Yamato and the dimensional submarine, which would make some sense. We get to see the UX-01 again at the end of the latest episode, and the characters were talking about how they were connected, so obviously there's something going on there. Sasha's voiceover is in this scene is that she's asking her uncle to do something. In the original OG series, we had a situation where the main characters were shown their future where the Yamato was destroyed, and they became despondent and depressed and kind of basically gave up. Sasha was the only one who stood her ground and was able to rally everyone together again. That could be what's going on here, because she's saying, Uncle, please do something. So it's hard to say for certain exactly, and I will just have to wait for new trailers, but looking quite exciting. Looking actually very, very exciting. Great posters, too, actually. I have to say, actually, looks like very great posters. That's like the other thing I have to say about this new Yamato. Every single season that comes out, she gets a new look. I've always preferred her look with the white stripes on her barrels, for lack of a better term, the invasion stripes. I think that those stripes were kind of inspired by the American DD stripes a little bit. They have their own in-canon reason, of course. Yamato being the only ship to conduct 3 interstellar voyages, which hence the 3 stripes around the barrels, and also the anchor mark on her flanks as well has that mark as well. Has 3 rings around it. It's called the Yamato mark. It's a very high mark of honor. And I definitely prefer that look that she has, and that dark grayish blue tinted coat of paint that she's got on her hull as well. Actually, I prefer over the standard gray that she's worn before. So that's my breakdown. Just to summarize again, I think that for sure we're going to have a Captain Ram Yamato team up. We are going to have a big celebration at Galman for when Yamato arrives there. We're going to have some kind of team up between the UX-01 and Yamato that involves Desarium to some extent. And then obviously we've got more things going on with Resistance, especially with this guy here, Suko's Captain. So, looking forward to the next episode, and when they release a larger trailer, because I know they will at some point between now and October, there will be a longer trailer that comes out. I'm really looking forward to seeing that, and I'll provide a breakdown of that as well. Hope you all enjoy. This turned out to be way longer than I needed it to be, but hope you all enjoy, and I'll see you all later.